Married at First Sight Season 18's Michelle Tomblin's lies are catching up to her, as she hasn't been honest with David Trimble at all this season. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching for more details. Married at First Sight Season 18's Michelle Tomblin has been lying to her husband David Trimble, but her untruths are catching up to her after weeks of dishonesty with her AHSOKA groom. Throughout Married at First Sight Season 18, Michelle and David have been one of the most buzzed-about couples on the show. Michelle, who joined AHSOKA hoping she'd find someone who she could spend the rest of her life with, has been actively struggling in her marriage to David since the very beginning. On paper, Michelle and David seemed like a decent match, but it hasn't worked in person. Throughout the season, Michelle has shown her true colors far more than David, who's been more tight-lipped about his thoughts on his AHSOKA wife. Michelle was hopeful she'd be able to find a spouse who mirrored her independent spirit and go-getter nature, who had his own life set up for him that would mesh with hers. Unfortunately, Michelle was matched with David, who doesn't outwardly have the same independent streak or ability to move freely in his life. While her biggest issues have seemed to come from David living with his parents, she hasn't been honest with him on everything. Michelle struggled with her marriage all season. Throughout Married at First Sight Season 18, Michelle has struggled in her relationship with David. Finding out that David lives with his parents was a tough blow for the Chicago social worker, and though she was clear that she wasn't going to judge him for menial things, Michelle took major issue with feeling that David had a lack of independence. Making it clear that she didn't care about his reasoning, David's living situation became the major sticking point in their relationship almost immediately. While Michelle has had bigger issues than David's living situation, she's harped on the fact that he's not independent and hasn't been honest with her about his finances, life, or career throughout the season. Though David hasn't been totally honest with his AHSOKA bride, he has been doing his best to explain himself and keep her up to date on what he's going to do moving forward. Michelle's disdain for David has led to a major lack of connection for the pair. Michelle's lied consistently to make David look worse. Throughout Married at First Sight Season 18, Michelle's been doing her best to make herself look good on screen despite her issues with David, but she's also been putting in the work to make David look worse than necessary. Making David seem he's wrong or out of touch for living with his family rubbed many AHSOKA viewers the wrong way. On top of her difficulties with his living situation and her over-exaggeration of the struggles, Michelle has been critical of David's style and culture, which has been insensitive. She's worked hard to make David look as bad as she can. Michelle's behavior has been unacceptable this season. Although Michelle has been trying to justify her bad behavior by making David look bad, it's clear that she's not actually coming from a place of kindness or grace pointing out his flaws. Instead, AHSOKA's Michelle seems to want to make it obvious that she's been set up with someone who's well beneath her and doesn't live up to her standards. In doing so, Michelle has proven that her behavior throughout the season has been entirely unacceptable. Michelle's time on Married at First Sight has made it clear she's a villain and doesn't respect the process of the show.